a place that Eric Musselman knows all too well as they await the winner of St. Mary's and UConn. Oh, baby, what a game this was. Ricky Council, big buckets down the stretch. Davis, a big game as well. This was a valiant comeback for Arkansas, and it ends with triumph, 72-71. And what this means is that a defending champ fails to make the second weekend for the sixth time. None of the last five champs and only one of the previous seven even reached the second weekend the following tournament. Duke won it in 2015, lost to Wisconsin in the Sweet 16 in 2016. So Florida, the last back-to-back champs, 06-07. This post-game recap is presented by Belfour, restoring more than property. Here with 24/7 Sports Director of Scouting Adam Finkelstein and CBS Sports college basketball analyst Tim Doyle. Tim, your reaction here, another number one goes down. What a comeback by Arkansas.
It just seems like a few hours ago, Akeem, you and I were getting absolutely roasted on social media for questioning Kansas as a number one seed, for questioning Kansas's backcourt. Well, Kansas's backcourt got outplayed today by Ricky Council and Devontae Davis. Both those guards for Arkansas were sensational. I thought Jordan Walsh's effort off the bench, he had 10 enormous points for Arkansas. You know what I love about these upsets? You're not seeing like teams shoot 70% or make 23s. The better team is winning. Kansas was just okay today, and just okay is just not going to cut it. Grady Dick had a subpar effort. Jalen Wilson was his usual self, and I thought the guards from Kansas were above average. But you're trying to win elimination games. You need special performances. Arkansas got them. Kansas didn't.
How about the comeback here from Arkansas and what you saw down the stretch? What stood out to you down the stretch here as Kansas failed to make a bucket over the final 4 minutes?
Yeah, it was their defense, certainly. And we talked about Grady Dick. They kept Grady Dick off the three-point line the entire game, and then their defense really anchored them down the stretch. Offensively, they just continued to come at you. They continued to attack. Devontae Davis stepped up and was absolutely spectacular. Going into this game, if you said, hey, Arkansas is not going to get a single bucket from Nick Smith, but they're going to beat Kansas, what would the chances of that have been? Not very high, but because Davis stepped up to the extent he did, delivered not just in terms of the points, but also on the glass with 8 rebounds, Arkansas is able to come back late in the game and make what I consider to be a bit of an upset.
When you talk about what Arkansas was able to do, end-of-game execution, what stood out to you, Tim? Because you saw Jalen Wilson, right, try to miss that free throw. It banks in to give himself a chance, and they end up dribbling out the clock to win it. What did you make of the end-of-game execution for Kansas here down the stretch?
Yeah, I mean, you know what you got to do? You got to get stops. And you know what Arkansas went out there and did? They made some really tough shots. I mean, Davis's turnaround jump shot down two, that's an NBA shot. Like, it was a really hard shot. He was going over the wrong shoulder. Like, they made plays down the stretch, and the biggest thing is they made their free throws. Arkansas 21 of 26, but more importantly, they made every big one because, Kansas doing the smart thing. We're trying to put them at the free throw line. Arkansas was doing the smart thing. That's why anyone that says, oh, we play good defense when we're up 3, always foul, right? Kansas had no opportunity at any point to tie this game. Jalen Wilson, I thought, had an open 3. He decided to drive. He got fouled, went to the free throw line. But I just thought Arkansas's guards were much better. That is a common theme in this tournament, and it has been since the beginning of time. The guys who dribble the ball, the guys who have the ball the most, well, they have to end up being your best players. Arkansas's best players were their guards.
What stood out to you by the job of Eric Musselman in this situation, coaching his kids to this victory?
Well, that late game execution that you just talked about was absolutely brilliant in terms of, listen, everybody says foul when you're up 3, but it's a lot harder to do it in reality. And Arkansas executed that to perfection because they waited and waited and waited until there was just 3 seconds left. They didn't risk fouling a shooter, but they waited until the very last second. That didn't give Kansas enough time to go in the other end. It forced them to have to try and miss the free throw, and then they had the good block out. That was the end of the game because they executed fouling up 3 so well.
Tim, we talk about stuff that's historic, right? Last night we had a 16 beat a 1, just the second time in NCAA tournament history. And then Kansas 47-0 when leading by 8 or more in an NCAA tournament game at halftime. So now they are 47-1, which just adds to the nuttiness of how this happened. For Arkansas, this is magical because their run continues. They're back in the Sweet 16 for the third straight year. They took out Gonzaga last year in the Sweet 16. They lost to Duke in the Elite Eight. But when you look at what this means for Kansas, right, they were trying to get back to the Final Four, become a back-to-back national champ. How much do you think not having Bill Self on the sideline impacted this team? And I know Norm Roberts is his top assistant, and he's there, but you having spent time on a bench in Division I, not having your head coach, what's that like for these kids?
Yeah, that was everything. As you take a look, as Arkansas is celebrating with the traditional water bottle dance, and Musselman, the shirt will be off there, but to answer your question, it's everything. You know, I'll go back to something that is my fondest moment in NCAA history, and that is when Grant Hill threw the pass to Christian Laettner, and, you know, Laettner made the shot. You know, what those guys talked about in the huddle was they believed before the play even took place. They knew that play was going to work. You know, Coach K had that sort of confidence. I mean, when you go back and look at all the moving parts that had happened, Grant Hill had to throw like a perfect pass. Laettner had to know how much time was left. But Coach K gave him that belief. Kansas didn't have that with no Bill Self today.
How do you think that impacted this team? Because Bill Self's one of the greatest college basketball coaches of all time with 3 national championships, and not having him in the Big 12 tournament, not having him in the first couple games here in the NCAA tournament, certainly a huge loss not having his voice.
Well, I think it's important to preface this answer by saying I think Norm Roberts did a terrific job. He guided them at the beginning of the season, and I think Kansas was clearly ready to play here today. But where missing your head coach is potentially most impactful is down the stretch of a close game, because he's been in that seat before. And Norm Roberts has too. Is obviously the head coach at St. John's. But Bill Self has been in that seat with the clipboard with those kids before. And so to have another voice, one, it's a lot to ask of Norm Roberts. Two, it's a lot to ask of those kids to execute special situations when the stakes are at their highest without their head coach. That was the moment of the game when I thought it was most important for them to be without their head coach. And your heart's got to go out to Bill Self and these kids, because he's there. He's in the locker room. He's with these kids. Just was medically advised to not go onto the court itself and coach the game in an active role. And you just have to wonder what's going on in that locker room right now.
Yeah, Bill Self chasing his 3rd national champion as Kansas was trying to run it back, become the first team to go back-to-back since that awesome Florida team, 06-07. Tim, you mentioned this off the top, but you have to feel a little vindicated here, right? Because you made the statement that they didn't have national championship pedigree or what exactly they have. And it's like sometimes you feel like you want to pat yourself on the back when you're right, because you watch these teams. And fans, obviously, we get caught up in the teams. And if we're supporting them, obviously, Kent State lost last night. That was a heartbreaker for me. Like, you know, when you talk about the fans will get riled up because they love these teams. They love the kids on the teams that represent the university. But you saw something that perhaps a lot of people didn't see from this Kansas squad coming back.
Yeah, when I handicapped this entire tournament, right, the word that I kept using over and over again was culture, right? You wanted to have guys that had that continuity, had that chemistry. Everyone understood their roles. Now, I think Kansas's culture was affected by not having Bill Self. I mean, you know, college basketball is a college basketball coach-led sport. Like, you don't lead they have a star player. No, you talk about the star coaches. And that Adam mentioned it, not having him there, especially in crucial moments. Like, I get it that Norm Roberts was a head coach, was being the key word. But in this game, they were outscored 18-5 on the bench. You know, we talked about Jordan Walsh's performance. He was remarkable. The freshman came in and they gave him enormous minutes for Arkansas. Kansas just didn't have like the it. They didn't have that it factor. Like, Grady Dick's an amazing talent. He's going to get paid a lot of money to play at the NBA level. Jalen Wilson is an NBA talent. When I looked at their guards, I just did not see that swag like I saw from Arkansas. Arkansas's guards have swag. Guards are going to win this time of year. You know who didn't have swag? Check out Purdue's guards. They didn't even look at the rim. Like, you got to have some swag and some confidence in your game. So I thought the better team won. And I love the fact that all of these upsets are happening. Get used to it. Oh, this is the new norm. We loved March Madness when we were growing up as kids, and now we're much older. Akeem doesn't dye his gray hair. But it's going to get crazier now, Akeem, because of the one-and-dones, the transfer portal, guys bouncing around, guys going to the G League. Like, ones and twos losing, it's going to become the norm year after year after year.
Last 6 defending national champs have failed to reach the Sweet 16. Meantime, Eric Musselman leads the Razorbacks to a 3rd straight Sweet 16. And this is great for Eric Musselman because he's one of those guys in March that if you don't really know the Arkansas program, you know Eric Musselman, right? You know the guy. He's crazy on the sideline. There it is. He tweets out March Madness, hashtag Sweet 16. Like, he's one of those characters that you come to love in March because of the intensity, the passion, the reaction he has during the games. You know, he's not a medium guy. He's a guy that's going to give you the big emotion, going to give you maybe a big soundbite, and that's how his team sort of plays, right? They embody their head coach.
He understands marketing as well as, if not better, than any other head coach in the country, and he does it year-round. He does it with his social media. He does it in recruiting. And to put it in perspective, remember, he had the #1 recruiting class in the country last year, and although he came into this tournament as an 8 seed, he began this season as one of the favorites to win a national championship, and Arkansas has gone through their fair share of adversity this season. So for him to celebrate like you're seeing right here is only fitting, because while we're talking about Kansas being without Bill Self, this is an Arkansas team that's had to adjust to playing without Trevon Brazile inside, who's had to adjust to playing without Nick Smith for long periods of time, who had Nick Smith come back only to go scoreless tonight. And they've persevered and found a way throughout the course of the season. And right now, they're playing as well as they have all year long.
Tim, no disrespect to St. Mary's, but Randy Bennett is pretty chill. Like, he's not a real, like, rah-rah guy. He's pretty even keel, medium. We need Danny Hurley against Eric Musselman in the Sweet 16, right? We got to have that in Las Vegas.
I thought you were going to talk about Randy Bennett taking his shirt off. No disrespect to Randy Bennett. Okay, but if the shirt comes off, I think everyone's going to be running for the hills. I think Muss needs to do a few more lat exercises or something. It looks like the tan is amazing, but I don't know about the muscle structure. You know, when you talked about Musselman, my last thought, there's some guys like this time of year, Bruce Pearl, I'll kind of put in that same sentence as well, like, they just have like a little bit of an edge, and these kids believe in them. That's what's unfortunate for Kansas. I think Bill Self has that same edge. I think the kids do believe in him. Fortunately, he wasn't on the sidelines today for the Jayhawks.
Arkansas stuns Kansas as Kansas fails to make a field goal in the final 4 minutes of the game, and the reigning national champs go down against Arkansas. Tim Doyle, Adam Finkelstein here on CBS Sports HQ.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.